I'm running out of money. I need money. What do? There's no way I'm gonna fit into the starving artist stereotype. That shit is stupid. You know, commissions are easy, right? I've done them before, but it's always the same type of shit that my followers want to buy. Furries, anime OCs, portraits of their significant others, and pets. And I don't want to do any of that. So I'm banning all of it. That should do it. Right? Basically, he wants this character from Kingdom Hearts. He wants him sitting in a pose where he's kind of lounging, he kind of chilling, and the vibe of the image should be kind of dark. Usage of red and yellow tones. But yeah, it should be casual but not stiff, if that makes sense. That did make sense to me, so now I'm gonna try to interpret it. Alright, so this one started out as an imaginative sketch. I was not in the best headspace when starting it, and it showed in multiple ways. Firstly, I forgot to press record in OBS. That's why I didn't see me starting this out. Secondly, I didn't use proper construction. And third, I did not establish the perspective of the scene and sketched them sitting in the air. Well, I should have at least sketched something like a ground plane at the very least.
Number 4. Forgot to run the on-screen timer.
In a moment, I thought I'd Kim Jong-gi style that shit, but that rarely ends with a satisfactory result for me. And this was no exception. Like, the individual body parts kind of work, but they don't work as a set. And that's the problem with straight drawing for me usually, because I focus in on one area at a time, but don't take into account the full thing. However, I didn't want to scrap what I'd done so far, so I took a couple references of myself and used it to fix up my mistakes. Alright, so now that the pose was done, it was time to actually turn it into the character. Starting from the face, which ended up looking kinda off at first, just like the body did. Starting to see a pattern here. Then I added the lower jaw metal thing, I don't know what that is, like a part of the helmet or something, and the hair. I drew the hair way too high up, but did not notice that in the moment, but it's pretty obvious looking at it now. Those red lines on the character's suit kinda act as outlines for the abs, and almost as outlines for the pec muscles. Sort of outlining the direction of the muscle fibers here, which is a kind of a cool look. So that's one positive thing. The rest of the suit was pretty simple to draw out as well, because most of it is just skin tight, which means that I don't have to draw anything. So after an hour and a half of drawing, I finally realized I should establish the perspective. I used some 3D tools in Clip Studio Paint to put the perspective into place. I used the reference that I took myself to get it accurate. I was close to 2 hours in at this point, so there was not that much time left to detail up the background, so I left it kind of abstract. I let the client know that I would do that as well, and he agreed. So that's cool. Alright, it's time for shading. I thought I'd go for something like a camera light here. In hindsight, it probably was not the smartest decision because the picture was supposed to have a sort of a dark but laid back vibe, and I do not know if that sort of lighting matches that description. I think some sort of overhead lighting would have been a better choice, but it was too late. You just have to make a decision when you work on a tight time limit. Looking back at the thing now, this whole image was kind of a mess from my part, to be completely honest. But it acted as a kind of a reality check. I haven't been making enough rendered drawings lately, and I've been taking it for granted that I've got skill. But skills also require maintenance, if you know what I'm saying. It's kind of like working out. You gotta work out regularly to maintain your gains, otherwise you're gonna lose it, boy. Another reason it's a mess is because I did the specular pass first here, aka the reflections, while I should have done the actual normal light pass before doing the reflection. Does it really matter? I don't know, but anyways, I was near 3 hours in at this point, and this was a 2-hour drawing, so I needed to do something with the background quickly. So I quickly went over the middle parts of the front-facing areas with a brighter color using a couple texture brushes. At that moment I realized the whole image was a bit too dark. Like, yeah, it was meant to be dark, but not literally. My solution was to add another lightening layer on top and erase out areas of it where the forms were turning away. Additionally, I went over the top-facing areas with some of the yellowish background tone to imply reflection, and after putting in some quick shadows, I decided to also add the reflection to the top-facing parts of the character. So that was nice. And yeah, that's really about it for the first one. However, I do feel like I could have done a way better job with this piece. I should have probably warmed up first or something. I mean, it's not bad, it's just not my best. Alright, so this piece is for a World of Warcraft player and his wife. Gamer couple goals, if you know what I'm saying. I've been seeing a lot of these DALL-E and Midjourney videos on my recommended lately, and I wanted to see if I could maybe try it out for myself somehow, you know, to be in tune with the latest technologies. Basically, I wanted to try and see if it'd be possible to generate something like a pose or an idea for a composition. I entered my first prompt and waited for the result. So DALL-E interpreted the word battle ready as a soldier, so perhaps I should have included the words sword or bow or something of the like, but going into it I already was skeptical, so I couldn't be bothered. I attempted to insert World of Warcraft into the prompt and like the class descriptions of the characters, but that wasn't very useful either. Like the limitations of the image libraries it's using are showing. And Midjourney was not very useful either. I tried out a few prompts there, but it didn't return anything usable, unfortunately. So yeah, there's a long way to go until the AI is useful for things like posing and composition ideas. Or maybe I'm just stupid and didn't use enough prompts. That's probably it, to be honest. Anyways, let's start with this. Thankfully, I did not forget to run the timer on this one. I used some reference packs from Graphite Studio for the poses with some small modifications to them to start out the image fast. Going into it, I wanted to end up with a nicely rendered and polished artwork. So that was my goal. 5 hours seemed like enough, but once I got to doing the sketch with all those details on both characters, I realized it's gonna take a while. So much details. I decided to not waste much time and get to detailing up the sketch before finishing the rough. Some artists are able to start painting over just very rough sketches, like way more rough than this, but personally I need a proper drawing made first before I can get to painting. So more than 2 hours had elapsed and I was still only doing the sketch. I realized I would likely have to go overtime, but still didn't feel like rushing it, so I took my time to finish the sketch properly, just to have like a nice base for the painting. When it comes to things like leaves bunched up on the character's shoulder here, I'm usually not sure how to approach it. Like draw everything out or try to simplify it somehow. So at first I thought I'd try a trick where I draw fills instead of outlines and put like an outline filter on the layer, but and I did not end up with a satisfactory result with that technique, so I scrapped it and just ended up drawing everything out by hand anyway. But thankfully it was simpler than I expected. I was just intimidated by how difficult it could be, but I didn't even try, so lesson learned. But still though, I was because only 1.5 hours were left on the clock and I'd only just finished the sketch. Oh, damn, bro. Like, it's only the base for the painting, you know what I mean? And most of the clock is already gone. Anyways, I sent the sketch off for feedback to the client and he only wanted 2 minor changes made. First, the width of the dude's lower face, which I accidentally made it too wide, and the addition of some green healing magic around the girl's arm. Boom, which I would add once I would get to the coloring. Alright, so flat colors are in, but only 9 minutes remain, and there is 0 shading in the image. So, nice! Nice job, Challa. Great, perfect time management. I attempted to use these 9 minutes wisely and try and squeeze the lighting draft into it. It kind of worked actually, but obviously I couldn't stop here, so I decided to give myself an extra 2 hours to see how far I could take it within that time. The first lighting setup I came up with was 2 side lights, yellow and blue, but I wasn't really feeling this lighting. I don't know if it looked off because of just how early in the process I was, or if it actually looked Shit. But anyways, I looked at some fantasy character artworks on ArtStation to see what type of lighting setups they use, and I ended up deciding to make a second light setup, which would be more frontal, so almost like a camera light, but a bit more from above, as well as a big old rim light hitting the backs. It took a bit of comparing the two versions, but I ended up committing to this new lighting setup. Regardless of the lighting setup I'd chosen, I would have had to make an ambient pass anyways, and that's what I was doing here. Hiding the color as well as shading helps me think about it more clearly without distraction. So it's basically like sculpting in your brain with a brush. But yeah, time's out again, and I decided to give myself yet another hour, just one more. At one point during the process, I remembered that I still have those old side light layers in there, so I tried re-enabling them to see what that would look like. The yellow light layer actually looked kind of nice on top of what I had committed to, so I decided to keep it on. But yeah, from this point on, it was all about the rendering on top of everything with a normal brush and the detailing it to an acceptable level. But yeah, that 1 hour timer also ran out really quickly, and at this point, I just did not care about time limits anymore, so I just took my time with it. Obviously, I didn't want to go over like 10 hours or anything, because that's entering another tier's territory, like another price range. But yeah, I ended up spending close to 9 hours on this one, but I don't regret it because it does look kind of nice. I'm way more satisfied with it than the first piece, at least. It's got problems, obviously, but every piece does. The client liked it as well, so that's nice. Ding. Thumbs up, like.
Buy my shirts right now, or else.
Bruh, check out my SoundCloud.